So as I talked about in this week's lesson, we're talking about the Listview Control and how one of the most common design patterns is displaying a list of items and then being able to do something with that list of items. So we can open an article, we can play a song, we can open a website, we can launch a video, we can do whatever we want when we click on the items in our list. So let's get started in looking at the Listview Control and how we can set one of these up. And ultimately, through this lesson and the next one, we are going to create a small city guide for Springfield, highlighting some of the attractions that the city has to offer. We're going to display those in a list, and then I'm going to show you how when you click on them, you can launch the web browser and take the user directly to a page that talks more about that attraction. So you can see here I'm on my new project window, and I'm going to name this, let's see, Springfield City Guide. All right, you know the drill. Next, blank activity, next, finish. Once you're in here, come up to your theme button, and I have chosen the Hollow Dark Compact Menu theme. So this is what we're going to start with. And the first thing I want to do is fix the spacing in the title. So I'm going to come over to my values, into my strings XML, and I'm just going to fix so that that looks better. Great. And let's get rid of that Hello World control, or that text. We'll just right off the screen. So our City Guide app is going to begin with a vertical list of items, right, our attractions, on this opening screen. So we're going to come over to our palette, and we're going to scroll down right past it to containers, and we're going to find the Listview Control. So once you've found that, go ahead and place it, and you'll see that it fills our entire screen with a default layout. We can kind of see how all of our items are going to look. So once you have the Listview Control in here, let's hop over to our main activity. And what we need to do is now set up the list of items that we want to display in our list and then provide them to that list view. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to change the superclass, the parent class that our main activity extends. Because this is all about list view, we're going to change this to a list activity. So the onCreate is where we're going to create the list of items, and they're just strings, and then provide that to the list view so it knows which items to display when the app is run. And so we don't need this set content view line right here. I'm just going to comment that out. So we're going to start with setting up that list of strings, and we're going to do it as an array. And if you're not familiar with an array is a list of variables that are all the same data type. So like declarations for variables of other types, an array declaration has two components. It has the array's data type and the array's name. So we start with the data type, and in this case you put the square brackets so that it knows you're creating an array, and I'm going to name this attractions. And so an array is a container object that holds a fixed number of values for a single type. And we can declare all of these right here inside of curly braces. So we're going to do equals, curly braces, and then each item that we want to put inside of here goes in quotes. So I just came up with a few. You can play with these, but I put Mother's Brewing Company. And then I also thought of the Askinosie, I'm spelling that wrong, N-O-S-I-E, there we go, Chocolate Factory. And so you can see each one goes in quotes with commas in between. Let's see, we can put Nathaniel Green Park. I'm just going to line wrap this around here. 1984 Arcade. And then the last one I'm going to put is Hammond's Field. Okay, so now that we have our list of items that we want to display inside of that list view, we're going to give the array to the Listview Control so it knows what to display. And so we do this by calling the setListAdapter, which takes in a new array adapter. You have to give it a data type, and of course our data type is string because that's what we just created up there. And so it's this being the current class, current object, and we specify a layout style. And so right now we're going to use a pre-built layout style called Simple List Item 1. And we can dig into how to create your own custom list styles. And then you also give it the array so it knows what to display. So you can go ahead and run this. Check it out. Your app should now display all of these items that we've put into this string. Okay, so now that you have completed this step, we're going to look at the onListItemClick method, which is how we will determine which browser, we're going to open the browser window, which URL it will take us to based on the click. All right, and it's very similar to a button on-click listener that sits there and awaits for user interaction. So when an attraction in the list is selected, the position of the item is passed to the onListItemClick method, and then we evaluate that with a decision structure, and then we determine what we're going to do. So let's go ahead and set up that method that we're going to need. So we have protected void on list item click. So it takes a list view item. I'm going to call it list. It takes a view item. I'm going to call view. It takes an integer for the position, and it takes a long for the ID. And go ahead and import in that view since it's going to pester you about that, right? Alt-enter. So I showed you an example of a switch statement in the previous lesson. When we're working with the activity bar, we use a switch statement with the cases to determine what to do when each one of those buttons is pressed. And this is the same decision structure that we use for a list view control, and what we need to set up here in the onListItemClick so that we can determine what to do when each one of these specific items is selected. So I'm going to go ahead and set up the basic structure. Right? We use the switch statement, and then we use the position integer, and then we set up the cases. So for case 0, we're going to do something, we break. For case 1, we do something, we break, etc., etc. So now that we have the switch statement all set up for each one of our items in the list, let's look at how to set up the activity with the intent of opening the browser window and going to a particular URL. We're going to start with case 0, which, looking at our array, is going to be when the user clicks on the Mother's Brewing Company list item. So we're going to do a start activity, and we're going to set up a new intent. Now I'm going to do this all inline so you can see it happen as all one line. In previous examples, I've showed you the steps of setting up the intent and passing it to the start activity. This is just a way of condensing that into a kind of one line of code. So our new intent is an intent.action view, and then a comma, and then it's a URI parse. Oops, that's a little p. And then in the parentheses, the URL where you want the user to go inside of quotes. So in this case, the Mother's Brewing Company website, and you'll need to do your import for the URI parse section right there. So make sure you've got all your parentheses right at the end, right? It should be 3 before the semicolon. And we're going to set up one of these for each one of our case items, taking the user to the correct URL. I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this into each one of my cases here, and then I just need to change the URL to the correct one. And there we are with each one of our cases. Double check that position 0 is the Mother's Brewing Company, Askinosie Chocolate is the first one, number 1, or I guess you can think of it as number 2, Nathaniel Green Park, the 1984 Arcade, and then Hammond's Field. So that is it. At this point you are done, and you can go ahead and test your app. Let's see what we've got so far.
So here we are with our completed Listview attractions application. And so you can see here is the app, and it's loaded, and we've got all of our Listview items. And as we click on these, a browser window opens and takes us to the appropriate URL. And we can go back, and then we can click on another one, and it will take us to the appropriate URL.